I think Jordan Harris is a super talented player, and I feel like he's a very, very talented offensive defenseman. And he's definitely come out of the cracks as kind of a surprising player for Montreal. He's picked up his numbers every single year he's played in Northeastern, starting with just 13 points over 39 games to now having 19 points in 19 games this past season. And I think he's definitely a great captain or captaincy material for that team. The Northeastern team doesn't really have as many big NHL prospects, at least at the moment, as compared to certain other teams in the NCAA. So it's definitely, I feel like to have a guy like that who has some definite NHL potential would be a really good move. Not to mention, he's also playing with Jaden Struble, the Habs second round pick, on the first pairing, which is also pretty cool to see sort of those two guys playing alongside each other. And regarding what you said about him wanting to sort of stay for another year and complete his studies, as was reported by the Journal de Montréal, I can definitely agree with that, and I do think that's probably what's best for his career because definitely seems like Harris is the kind of guy who is looking into maybe other things beyond the NHL. He does want to play in the NHL, but he's also realizing that that's not his main focus, or maybe his main interest. Maybe he wants to complete his studies and actually realize that when his NHL career eventually ends, or if things film out rather quickly, he wants to have a fallback option. There's been a lot of cases in NHL history of this happening with guys who were late round picks or guys who weren't given as good a shot. And yeah, I mean, I definitely feel like I can understand what Harris did in that case.
And Josh, you recognize that name, right?
Yeah, a little bit. Well, I was just more saying, yes, he was picked 79th overall, sorry, 71st overall in third round 2018. Yeah, he's done well offensively everywhere that he goes. He's currently last year with Northeastern scored 19 points in 19 games. So that's very good. But I'm wondering if he doesn't work out, should we be worried about the defensive prospects? Because we lost to pretty not like A-list names, but Cale Fleury and Noel Juleson for nothing this year. Should we be worried about missing more guys and their impact?
I feel like Cale Fleury and Noah Jolson were ancillary players for the Canadiens, and I know I'm probably going to get a lot of blasphemy and kind of pitchforks and flaming torches and all that for saying that because I know there's a lot of Canadiens fans who really liked Cale Fleury and Noah Jolson, but they were both players who just didn't really pan out for Montreal, and they're going to find better options with better teams. Cale Fleury playing with his brother Hayden now in Seattle, and Noah Jolson hoping to continue to prove himself as the first round pick that the Canadiens originally envisioned him to be. So I definitely think that while they should worry about some of the prospects they might be losing, the Canadiens have a way of that they'll keep building, that they've been building for free agency over the last little while, and they're really set with guys like Ben Shura and Joel Edmondson. I think for the next foreseeable future.
I think at the same time, it's also very circumstantial the fact that we lost both Fleury and Juleson, because you got to remember, first off, Noah Juleson, he had that eye injury, mixed with concussions and stuff like that. So like we didn't even know if he was even going to come back to the NHL for that matter. And then the Habs just took the risk of placing him on waivers because they didn't have a choice. They had to make a roster spot, and that risk didn't pan out. But in his case, you'd be like, you know what, buddy, congratulations, you found a team. Hopefully, you get a good career. And in the case of Cale Fleury, I think that and Scott, feel free to disagree with me if you feel like it. I think I don't want to blame DNA for this, but I mean, he's very similar to his brother Hayden, because when Hayden got drafted by the Carolina Hurricanes, he was touted as a very high prospect. I say this is the guy who's going to be in our top two on the left side. He's going to be incredible and everything. And then he kind of just floundered around a little bit, and he was in kind of that same class as Julien Gauthier, for example, who everyone thought, yeah, you're going to be the next big power forward. And next thing you know, now he's playing for the Rangers. Maybe reuniting the brothers together will, maybe elevate them to the next level. But I don't know. I wasn't too worried when I like Cale Fleury, but I don't think his ceiling was that high for that matter. I think it was a 6th or 7th defenseman at best, right?
Well, I think the reason why so many Canadiens fans grew to like Fleury was his, like Romanov, his big hits. The guy definitely had a penchant for those big shots, and he definitely had a physicality to his game.
Oh, yeah, we love
but he also only scored one goal over 41 games with us, which is partly probably contributes to the reason why he was ultimately sent down. I know he was a player that Joe Bouchard absolutely loved when he was with the Laval Rocket, and he kind of fit into that Jake Evans bill of just being a hardworking guy who just showed up to practice every day and did the same exact things every single night. But I do feel like that Hayden Fleury has a lot more riding on his stint in Seattle than his brother does, because being a former 7th overall pick definitely comes with a lot more expectations than Cale has. And what I'm hoping for is that the two can play off of each other and make the other better in the process.
The one other thing I would like to talk about, Scott, if you don't mind, is the sudden invitation to the development camp of goaltender Alexis Gravel. Now, everyone got kind of caught by surprise, probably because we were talking about earlier how there is no news going on right now, aside from those ridiculous Alex Galchenyuk rumors, which we'll cover a little later, and that Elias mentioned as well during his segment. But maybe not. Hey, we're all flexible. We could change the show any way we want, guys. But Alexis Gravel, I mean, I had to Google him because I was probably part of the millions and millions of Habs fans who were going, who? And, I'm on HockeyDB right now. And I see Alexis Gravel is a goaltender born in Asbestos, PQ, Quebec. He's 21 years old. He's 6'3", 219. He was a 6th-round pick, 162 overall for the Chicago Blackhawks in 2018. And he's got typical goaltender stats for the Q. And typical as in high 3s GAA, percentage under 9. I mean, is this... I'm spitballing here, Scott. I mean, is this actually newsworthy, or hey, you never know? Maybe this is someone who could actually who actually does have the talent and is given a second chance, being like, the floor is yours, my friend. Maybe you can make it into the number 1 goaltender for the Lions, or maybe he'll squeak his way through the Rockets lineup. I mean, what do you think?
Well, that's exactly what it is. It's a chance. That's what the Habs are giving. They're just giving him an opportunity to, hey, showcase yourself. And to be fair, Gravel has some potential. I mean, he took the Halifax Mooseheads on a Memorial Cup run in 2018-19. His numbers have dipped a lot because the Mooseheads have kind of died offensively after former second-round pick Raphael Lavoie went over to the Edmonton Oilers, who drafted him. And he was kind of who they lived or died by offensively. But Montreal's actually had some experience with inviting guys to training camp who would go on to do big things in junior and eventually get drafted themselves. A player that I actually wrote about a long time ago was Evgeny Uksenchuk, who was a very obscure invite to the Canadiens development camp around 2 years ago. He was a Belarusian player who had only played in Belarus's leagues and had never really made a junior debut. Well, after the development camp, he got drafted in the OHL import draft, put up 78 points in 58 games with the Flint Firebirds, playing alongside Ty Dellandrea, and got himself drafted to the Dallas Stars. So yeah, I feel like while Gravel is not exactly a newsworthy development, I mean, Montreal has invited countless guys to the development camp in the past. For my obscure reference of the day, Google Alexandre Goulet to get your information about that. But I definitely think that Gravel is an interesting addition, and maybe who knows, maybe the Canadiens will offer him an AHL contract. But what I do think is a very good possibility, I think Gravel is a very likely signing by the Trois-Rivières-Lyon just because of where he's from. And I feel like the Lyon would definitely be like, hey, we'll give you the backup goalie position. You can play behind Kevin Poulin, and we'll see how things go from there. So I definitely think that could be an option.
Now I'm going into uncharted territory here, and normally this is something that Maria would help us with on research, but she's also gone on vacation this week. On top of your head, and Josh, if you know this, I mean, more power to you. Has there been a situation where we've had a random invite like that who's cracked the NHL roster? On top of your head, do you remember anyone?
Oh man, wow, that's it's really racking my memory there, Patrick. God.
I don't think so. Huh? I mean, there might be.
I mean, unless you're talking about like Happy Gilmore, like any sports movies like that.
Well,
I mean.
Come on, legendary for that matter, right? But yeah, no worries. But we'll.
I mean, if you go back to the 1950s, obviously, but
maybe, yeah. Well, there was a certain number 9, for that matter, who was an invite at some point.
Yeah. Well, during the NHL's war era, half the teams were literally just tryout guys. That's the thing, because everyone was
exactly factory workers who would walk in and say, "You could play. Come on, let's do this."
Oh, that's totally how it went, sadly.
All right. Well, Scott, thank you very much for this segment. Josh, thank you so very much for actually pitching in the absence of Sebastian. And that has been this another outstanding segment of the Prospect Heroes. And now, this is the part where normally our good friend Elias Laradi, our insider for Puck and Roll, normally comes in and starts talking about news and rumors and whatnot. But unfortunately, Elias is not with us right now. However, he did submit, just like Sebastian, a little pre-recorded segment. We have agreed on a new title for this upcoming segment. This is going to be called the Habs Blitz from now on with Elias Laradi. So here's what Elias has this week in terms of news and rumors for the Montreal Canadiens.
This is the Habs Blitz with Elias Laradi. And thank you, Patrick, for that amazing introduction. I kind of like the name, the Habs Blitz. I'm kind of coming at you with pressure. But first of all, I'd like to give a big, big shout out to my dear friend Chanel Marie. She's the one who voiced the intro. She's been a good friend of mine. She goes to Concordia. She's in radio, so I really feel like she was a big help for me for this one. And now for the news of the day, we have Michael McNiven, who actually avoided arbitration. His recent contract was at $700,000. Now he officially got $750,000. But the big deal about this is that he actually got $110,000 in guaranteed money. And I really think that was one of the main issues why he went to arbitration. He wanted to make sure that this year the man got paid. And did he get paid? I don't know if an arbitrator was going to give him, any more money, maybe consider him less. But the fact that he went to arbitration for a $50K bump, we talked about this on the show last week. I didn't really see much sense of this. He was averaging $700K the last 5-6 years. If he got to maybe 8-9, maybe, but for only an extra $50K, that raises a lot of questions. Another news that's been circling around, which really ended up meaning nothing, was Alex Galchenyuk. There was a lot of rumors on social media, a lot of people, creating fake buzz that, he's going to come back to Montreal, he's going to re-sign. There was even someone who tweeted, but it wasn't a verified Twitter account of a media person, saying that apparently he was supposed to be in Montreal today to sign a new contract to come back to the team. Now, honestly, it was a fake noise. It wasn't legit. We were waiting for verified sources to confirm this, but it was never actually confirmed. And there was a lot of people saying, hey, he should come back, If I can give my personal 2 cents as to what I think honestly, ever since Galchenyuk's left Montreal, it's been kind of a downward spiral. He's gone from team to team to team. He went from Montreal to Arizona to Pittsburgh to Minnesota. Then he finished the year in Toronto last year. He was famous for giving that pass to Cole Caulfield, who picked him off to force Game 6 against Toronto in Toronto. So, honestly, my personal opinion, I really didn't see a fit for him on his team. He's kind of more negative than positive, I feel, and he's one of those players that's just been going around the league looking to refine his magic. But I think honestly, he hasn't really found it lately, and his numbers would agree, and I'm sure everyone on this podcast would agree with me that he's not a good fit. But that's your news for this week, and I look forward to speaking to you guys next week.
All right. Thanks a bunch, Elias. So, guys, Scott and Josh, who are still with us. Okay. You know what? I think Alex Galchenyuk is kind of a non-story. Last week we've spoken in depth about the fourth line and the amount of depth and everything that this team has.
Galchenyuk is the fifth line.
6 even for the with the amount of players that we have. And for all we know, like Scott made a great comment earlier saying like he'll probably sign in Germany for all we know, right? So yeah, exactly. So no disrespect to Chucky, but I've
never talked about Nikita Gusev.
I don't. So we've decided, you know what? We're gonna have a little bit of fun with this segment, especially since it's only Scott, Josh, and I. We were talking, and we talk a lot because this is what's great about this show is that we can come in with a plan, and the next thing you know, if the police plans go straight out the window, and we don't follow the script at all because there isn't any script. Okay, well, we'll plan a little bit ahead as to what kind of topic we're going to talk about. We try and time it, so we don't start talking for like 6 straight hours and everything. But then we were kind of talking about the wonderful 2 words that you hear in all walks of life, and that's what if. What if, what if I went out with this person, or what if I hadn't taken this job, or what if I moved to this place? But when it comes to hockey, there's a lot of what ifs, and Scott was the one who actually mentioned this, and then Joshua was all over this and being like, oh my goodness, like we could talk about this for like the next 3 days. What if back in 2010, now I know some of you might not remember, you can always Google it, but bear with me here. In June 2010, Yaroslav Halak, back then playing for the Montreal Canadiens, of course, was traded to the St. Louis Blues for two young prospects,